Welcome to Straight Talk Tuesday for July 28th, 2020. This will be our first installment of the Elite Retirement Plan series, and we'll begin with reviewing your corporate 401k plan and why now is the perfect time to be doing that. I'm Rich Myers, and I'm a corporate retirement plan specialist at Retirement Plans, Inc. And this presentation has been put together in conjunction with Brent Bowers, a retirement plan advisor at Retirement Plans, Inc. On the agenda for today, we'll be discussing what you should be reviewing within your 401k plan and why you should start the process of reviewing the plan now, along with what benefits both the company and the employees can get from this plan review and what's needed to get started. Quick disclaimer, today's presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Now let's get started with what you should be reviewing within your 401k. There are 4 areas to consider when taking a look at your retirement plan. And I consider it to be very much like a 4-legged stool or 4-legged chair. If you take one of these 4 areas out of consideration, the plan can become a little bit unbalanced and not have quite the successful results as if you're reviewing all 4 of these. The first is going to be participant outcomes. How is your plan doing for the employees? Are they on track to retire? And are they getting the most out of the plan? Next is the fees. Are they reasonable? Can they be lower than what you're paying today? And can you get more services for those fees? Next, we want to look at investment performance and how your investments have been doing compared to their peer group and how consistent they've been through the ups and the downs in the market. And finally, you want to take a look at your plan design with both document restatement coming up next year and some major changes that have happened earlier in 2020 and 2019. Let's start with participant outcomes. You want to be looking at how does your participation and contribution rate compare to your peer groups. So we want to compare construction companies to other construction companies and other tech companies to tech companies and so on and so forth, similar for healthcare companies. What percentage of your employees are on track to retire at age 65? We all know that as employees age, there's a couple of things that happen. One, their health insurance costs go up to the company. 2, their salary expenses to the company are probably on the rise as well. And so if we can get them to retire close or at 65, that's going to help reduce the company bottom line in terms of expenses. We also want to be looking at what percentage of your employee base is maximizing your company match if you have that. And then are there large amounts of participants that are taking loans or hardship withdrawals from the plan? Next, we want to be looking at plan fees. And this is the one that everyone wants to talk about, especially in today's economic environment where things have slowed down for many companies out there. We want to see if there's any way we can find savings within the retirement plan. And there's a couple of different areas you want to look at, which include the advisory fees. Are they reasonable for the services they're providing? An advisor who is doing one-on-one employee education, creating financial wellness programs, and perhaps being a 338 full fiduciary to your plan, taking that investment liability away from your company, they might be worth a little bit more than someone that just comes around once a year and does a group meeting and doesn't take responsibility for the investments. We just want to make sure those fees are reasonable. Next, we want to look at the record-keeping fees. Fees have come down drastically over the past 5 years. So if you haven't evaluated this recently, more likely than not, you can either negotiate lower fees with your current provider or have massive savings by making a move to a new provider. We also want to look at investment fees. We want to make sure that you're utilizing the institutional or lowest cost share class for each investment. This is considered to be an industry best practice. 5-10 years ago, this wasn't available. It was only available to Fortune 500 companies, but today, every company, no matter the size, can get those lowest cost investments. And then lastly, we want to look at the third-party administrator fees. Are they being paid directly by you as the business, or are they coming from plan assets? And if they are coming from plan assets, how much is coming from those plan assets? And don't forget about transaction fees, as those can really add up as participants are taking loans and distributions. Another common thing that most companies want to be discussing and reviewing on an ongoing basis are the investments. We want to be looking at the rate of return against their investment peer groups. So that includes the 1, 3, and the 5-year return numbers, as well as each year individually. So 2019, 2018, 2017, so on and so forth, to ensure that your funds have a track record of consistent performance. Sometimes if we're only looking at the 3-year and the 5-year, one really good year can skew the numbers, even though the fund hasn't been that good all the other years combined. You also want to look at the risk versus return. So how much risk is the fund taking to get the return that it's actually getting? Obviously, we want the highest returning fund possible, but if it's taking twice the amount of risk to get that return, we might not want it in the fund lineup because it's putting your company at more liability, more risk, and it's really not providing that much value. We want to look for funds that are taking less risk and getting more return. Lastly, want to evaluate the fund menu creation and what your fund menu is actually providing to your participants. And it starts with a conversation of active versus passive funds. Active funds are going to have a manager that is trying to pick and choose better investments in that particular fund. And there's going to be a little bit of a higher fee associated with that. Whereas passive is going to be very low cost, and it's just going to track a certain index like the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. Now, our opinion on this front is that each fund lineup should have a mixture of active and passive funds, because some participants may want that low-cost fund, while others may want that a little bit more actively managed fund. So we'll start with that conversation, and we also want to look at the target date funds within your plan and analyze those, because not all target dates are created equal. Some target date funds are really aggressive for young individuals and really conservative or safe for older individuals, while some are safer for young individuals and more aggressive for older individuals. We want to make sure that the target date funds series that you've selected for your employees actually fits your employment base. Lastly, we want to take a look at your plan design to make sure that your plan is stacking up well against your competitors in the area. A good 401k will help you win and retain the best talent out there. And so knowing how you stack up against your competition can help you get those best employees. We also want to discuss, are you happy with the cost of your current company match? There actually might be a way that you can reduce your company expenditure and improve participant outcomes at the same time. There's a new program out there that we have access to that can help us evaluate this for you. Also, are you experiencing any testing failures where your owners or highly compensated employees are receiving refunds each year? If so, this could be solved by simple plan design changes like implementing a safe harbor plan design, or maybe just stretching your company match out a little bit to have employees contribute just a little bit more to get the full company match. And then, does the plan still meet the needs that it was set up for? Your company has ebbed and flowed and changed over time, probably quite a bit since you set the 401k plan up years ago. We want to make sure that your plan design is still optimized for what your company goals are and for your employees. Now let's take a look at why you should start your review now. And really, it's all about timing. We've just experienced an unprecedented market volatility. It's the perfect time to evaluate your investment options to see how they've done both in an up market and a down market, and evaluate them critically to see if that's something you want to keep in your lineup. It's also a good time to evaluate if you've been properly supported by your service providers through this volatile time? What was your advisor doing to assist you as a company or to assist your employees, as they may have had some concerns about their retirement nest eggs? What was your record keeper doing to help improve your experience during the time of market volatility? And have you been happy with them? Next, we've seen fees at all-time lows. Providers are really battling for your business right now. And so we've seen $0 record keeping and waived fees from record keepers become the norm as companies have been competing harder and harder for your business. We're also coming up on plan document restatement periods. So this starts fall of 2020 and will run through July 31st of next year. So we really have a 1-year time period right now where we're going to have to go in and redo your entire plan document and adoption agreement and resend it out to the IRS. So while we're doing this, if we want to make changes to the plan, now's the time to do it instead of next year or 2 years from now, when then we have to do another amendment. We can just wrap it all into one. And then lastly, you can start your review now and get it out of the way before your health insurance renewal season begins. We're expecting to see higher than average renewals to cover the cost of COVID-19 treatments from this year. And so why not get the 401k review out of the way before you have to start evaluating your insurance benefits really critically here as we're going into the end of the year. So what are the benefits of doing a plan review, and more importantly, an independent plan review? First and foremost, we've hit it already. It's probably the biggest one for companies today, is reduced expenses. You're going to have lower costs of investment. 100% of our plans that we've reviewed over the past 3 years, we've been able to either negotiate lower fees with their current providers or switch them to a new provider with lower fees. And those who typically switch to a new provider save anywhere from 25 to 50% on their annual fees. You could also have lower out-of-pocket expenses for your company. With the economic slowdown, we've seen many companies looking for ways to reduce their annual expenses. And while this expense isn't one that's quite as big as your insurance or some other corporate benefits and expenses, this is one area where you definitely can help and reduce your expenses. And then lastly, you can have lower transaction expenses or fees for your employees. Some providers charge $150 to $300 for loans and distributions. Our firm charges $25 to $35 for the same loans and distributions. We're really just trying to cover our overhead on this front for the administrative work, whereas other companies are seeing it as a profit driver or profit center for their business. Next, we want to look at plan compliance. And there's a massive benefit here by doing a review right now. It's been 8 years since fee disclosure regulations were passed back in 2012. If you remember, we as plan sponsors have to ensure that our fees are reasonable. And we should be doing this every 5 or so years. So if you haven't done it in the past couple of years, take advantage of this time to make sure that your fees are reasonable and probably get a reduction within your 401k fees anyway. So you're killing two birds with one stone. You're taking care of fee disclosure regulations and you're getting lower fees. We also had a ton of plan changes over the past few years. Hardship withdrawal changes were huge. Some of these were optional, but others were mandatory and had to take effect 1/1 of 2020. So if you haven't looked at this, make sure that you are reviewing and evaluating what you've done with your hardship withdrawal policies. We also had the Secure Act, which was implemented 1/1 of 2020, which had some other changes to the 401k plan. And then in March, we had the CARES Act legislation, which made even more changes to the 401k plan as it relates to COVID-19 and certain loans and withdrawals from the plan as it relates to COVID-19. So make sure that you're reviewing this and in compliance with all of these new plan changes. You can also take the time and take advantage of this document restatement period to make any plan amendments or changes that you were thinking about making already. Now's the time to do it because you have to restate that document anyway. You're also going to find that your participants have an improved experience and improved outcomes. Many record keepers and advisors are now providing new financial wellness features like mobile apps, financial aggregators such as Mint and Personal Capital, financial wellness programs, and even student loan support, all at no additional cost to you as a company or to the participants. It's really a value add to you. You're also seeing better employee education and advisory services. Active advisors such as Retirement Plans Inc. not only hold group meetings, but they're going to be holding individual one-on-one meetings with your employees. They're going to be providing ongoing financial wellness programs, not just as it relates to getting your employees to retirement, but a more holistic view financially. All of these programs are now added at no additional cost to you. So you're going to see a huge experience improvement by potentially reviewing your plan. You'll also see improved investment performance and diversity. We've seen lower cost investments now available across all plans, not just Fortune 500 companies. You're also going to have access to greater number of investments. So no longer are you limited to certain fund families. You can actually access whatever fund families you want, whatever investments you want at no additional cost. And then you're also going to have access to potentially risk-based advisor-managed portfolios at no additional expense. So we build these for all of our clients where we will have everything from an aggressive portfolio down to a conservative portfolio. So an investor or an employee can come to us and say, hey, I want to be a moderately aggressive portfolio, but I don't really want to have to manage my investments. Okay, great. Check this box. We've got it handled. No additional cost to you. Feel comfortable knowing you have professionals keeping an eye on it. So in order to get started with this review process, it really depends on what you want to take a look at and how deep you want to take a dive. So the most common one that we see are companies saying, hey, I just want to review my fees and my investments, make sure they're reasonable, they're doing well, maybe see if I can get a price break right now. So to do that fee and investment review, we'll need a fee disclosure document, breakdown of assets by investment, and then a fee schedule or invoice from your TPA if they're separate from the investment provider and record keeper. If you want to take it a step further and say, how are my employees tracking to get to retirement? Are we being successful in helping everyone retire around age 65? We can show you that too. We have programs to do that. In order to run those programs, we just need to know how much does each employee have in their 401k account, what's their salary, their date of birth, and what's their current contribution rate. And we can actually formulate these participant outcomes and how they're tracking for retirement and what small tweaks we might be able to make to improve that outcome. And then lastly, plan design optimization. If you want us to take a full deep dive into your plan design and see if there's anywhere where we can make an improvement for you as a company, all we need is an adoption agreement. We'll do a thorough review of that and then give you our recommendations as to where we believe you can make some improvements to help your employees and to help the company. If you'd like to do a comprehensive and independent review of your plan today, contact myself, Rich Myers, or my partner, Brent Bowers at Retirement Plans Inc. Thanks for joining us for this session of Straight Talk Tuesday. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.